Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is Hannah. If you're new here, I welcome you. If you're returning, thank you for coming back. I have a reading wrap-up video for April to share with you. So these are some of the books that I read in April. I also have some from my Kindle and a couple that I got from the local library that I returned already. So I'll pop them somewhere on the screen so you can see what the covers look like. Here's my stack. I guess let's start with the ebooks and get them out of the way. So here's my Kindle. That's what it looks like. I read The Butcher by Penelope Skye. It is a dark mafia romance. He falls first. She is married to this man who is not treating her right. And then she meets the butcher when he comes into her job at a bar one night. And they start to chat and they kind of just kick it off from there. And things progress as the story unfolds. So she's in the middle of a divorce and the butcher is kind of swooning after her and pining for her, and they have a connection. The butcher does some very morally great things for a living. Some may even say morally black. He is in this sort of underground society that helps keep the order within their country, but it's almost like a mob type of thing, but it's not exactly labeled the mob. Either way, I loved this book. I thought that the spice was so delicious. I loved the two of them together. I liked Penelope Skye's way of writing dark romance, and that's the first Penelope Skye book I've ever read, so I wasn't sure what to expect. I do have a couple others on my TBR, on my bookshelf. I'm glad I started with this one. It is a series. It's 4 books. It's the same characters throughout all 4 books, so that might get a little redundant, so I'm not sure if I will continue the series. I did download the second book, though, just so it's there if I want to read it. Anyway, I rated that 4 stars. I really, really liked it. I DNF'd The Serpent and the Wolf. This is a debut romantasy by Rebecca Robinson. It is enemies to lovers. It is a duology about this woman who gets captured because she is trying to stay alive. So she's trying to stay safe from her brother in order to achieve something. So she gets captured by a sort of enemy territory, and then there is an arranged marriage between the two, and she is just trying to survive and help with keeping everybody alive and safe from her evil brother. So I loved the slow burn of this. I did get to about halfway, I think. Slow burn was really great. The sizzling romance between the male and female leads was entertaining. I felt somewhat of a connection between the two of them. I liked the lack of spice because it was giving some angst, some earning. So the romance aspect of this book was great. The fantasy aspect was a little too political for me. I was having trouble understanding what was going on as far as the politics go. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I don't think it was written very concisely. It felt a little bit mumble jumbled, almost like the author was just trying to get everything in there and didn't really pay particular attention to the way it was being executed, how it was being executed, if it would be understandable from someone that's not actually writing the book versus reading the book. Because as the author, I'm sure she understood exactly what was going on. But as the reader, it just came off as a little bit confusing. So I did DNF it because I could not keep up, and I just couldn't do it with the politics. Variation by Rebecca Yarros. This was going to be in a reading vlog, and then I scrapped it because I didn't end up enjoying the books as much as I thought I would when I put them in that vlog. So this is a romance, contemporary romance. It's also got a little bit of just literary fiction-esque vibes. I love Rebecca Yarros' books like this. I loved Fourth Wing, but I like her, I guess, contempt romance or contempt fiction. I don't know what you'd consider it. I liked it a lot more than I liked the rest of the Fourth Wing series, if that makes sense. I don't think that made any sense. This is about a ballerina and a U.S. Coast Guard, and they were childhood friends. Something happened. They kind of separated their ways. They hadn't seen each other in 10 plus years, and then all of a sudden they see each other again. She gets hurt doing ballet, so she returns home, and he is the Coast Guard for their hometown, so he's there working, and they happen to just meet up again. And it is so sweet the way that these two are together. Just the chemistry between them is adorable. It is passionate. It is love. It is romantic. It is patient, and it is so sweet. But I did not like this as much as I liked The Last Letter. That made me literally bawl, 𝐴𝐞𝐫𝐞 cry, ugly cry. This, I didn't shed a tear. I just didn't feel that emotional angst with this book. I gave this one 4 stars, but honestly, that feels a little high for me. This is a 3.5 star. The Art of Catching Feelings by Alicia Thompson. This may or may not be in the reading vlog that is coming out after this video, I forget. This is a rom-com about a professional baseball player and his heckler. So she's at this baseball game, like yells out a funny joke, but it actually isn't a joke to him. And so they already kind of get off on the wrong foot. She ends up DMing him under a Instagram account, but it's not her name. It's like a screen name. So he doesn't put 2 and 2 together. He has no idea that the woman he's talking to online ends up working at his job interviewing him. And he doesn't realize it's the same woman, but she knows what she's doing. So I gave this book a 2.5 star. This was not a good book for me. I liked it at first. I had high hopes for it. But what ruined it for me is that I felt the female main character was just a liar. And I express it in the reading vlog. I felt like she was so full of shit. And I couldn't stand her. I didn't like her one bit. And that kind of ruined the book for me. Another book that I read this month, I loved this book, The Spell Shop by Sarah Beth Durst. This is a cozy fantasy. It is about this woman who moves back to the region that she grew up in, and she is starting over. She's got a spider plant named 𝐻𝐾, but he's more like her friend versus her pet, but he almost kind of has like that pet vibe, like if he was a puppy or something. But I loved the talking spider plant so much. I thought that was adorable. She moves to this region that she grew up in on this beautiful island, and the people of the island aren't so trusting of her at first because she's from the city and they don't trust the city folk. And she starts to kind of make friends and enemies, and she starts to restart her life. She moves into the cottage that she grew up in. She restores it. She plants things. She makes a beautiful garden. It was just a very lovely story to read. I felt that there were themes of found family, but there was also themes of trusting yourself and starting over, not being afraid to take that leap and to do things that you might not be comfortable with, but they are good for you in the long run. And it's just a really well-written lesson, in my opinion. I loved the characters in this story. I thought they were all so well written. They were really sweet, most of them. One of them was not so nice. There is a second book coming out, so I didn't know this was going to be a series, so I'm super excited. I gave this 5 stars. Loved it. I would absolutely reread this book over and over again. I even read bits of it out loud to my son at night because some of the creatures that were in this book, like the merfolk and the seahorses and some of the people from the town, thought would my kid enjoyed it. He's 6. He did have fun listening to the descriptions and some of the stuff that would happen. There's also themes of food in here. She opens up a jam shop to hide the spell books that she saved from her city. And then she ends up sort of not selling, but more so bartering some of the spells that she made with the townspeople to revive their island and bring life back to the nature that's there, etc. So this is a 5-star read for me. I highly recommend this book. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2 books that I got from the library that I returned, so I don't have them now. The first one is I'll Meet You There. I don't know the author's name, but I'll pop it on the screen. This is a YA contemporary novel. It had some elements of romance. It had some elements of drama. It was very heavily representing PTSD from being in the military. So we have our female main character. She's growing up in this town. She's got a full ride to college. And then her mother relapses, so she ends up kind of having to figure out what her plans are going to be now. And then her friend comes back from the military. He gets discharged, lost his leg. They work together at this hotel where they connect on a romantic level. And there is no spice because this is YA, but there was some suggestive dialogue. And I thought that this was really well written, but a little bit long. I gave it 3.5 stars. I really thought that the author took good care in writing about PTSD and returning to civilian life. I'm glad that I read it, and I think that it was an eye-opener. So the next book I read is YA. It's from the library. I already returned it. I Am the Swarm. And this is a YA fantasy, but it was written in verse. And I've never read a book written like that unless it was poetry. So it kind of threw me off for the first few pages. It took me a minute to adjust to the style, but I liked it after a while, and it was really quick to read. So it's about this girl and her family, and the women in the family have these magical abilities, I guess, but they manifest into something organic. So, for example, the main character, her magic manifests into bugs, depending on her emotions. For example, if she's sad, you might see moths start to come out of her body, out of her mouth, and take over a room. If she's excited, it could be butterflies. If she's scared, it could be flies. It just depends on the mood, and she hates it. Her mother manifests into depending on her maturity level of the day. So some days she wakes up and she's only 16. Other days she wakes up and she's her actual age of 32, and anywhere in between. It was interesting reading about the family dynamics when all these women have these different magical manifestations. It also shed some light on self-harm as a young adult when you are learning who you are and you're learning who your friends are and you're navigating your family dynamics and you're struggling with mental illness and all of these things. And it really touches on those topics if you can get past the way that it's written in verse. So I enjoyed it. I gave it another 3.5 star. YA is not my typical favorite type of genre. Like, I don't love YA. I much prefer adult reading, but I wanted to try it out. So I did enjoy that book, and I gave it 3.5 stars. The next book that I read is Always Mine by Laura Pavlov. This is part of a small town romance Honey Mountain series. And this is about our two characters, Vivian and Nico. Nico is a firefighter. Oh, Vivian owns a bakery, and he's a firefighter. So he is taking care of his niece because his mom and sister are not really on their feet. Nico is like anti-relationship, kind of commitment issue, phobe type of a guy. And Vivian is trying to get him to open up to her because they are friends, two lovers. And they have a really great friendship. I personally think that they were better off as friends. I didn't really like them together. I just didn't feel that chemistry between the two. It, to me, felt like friendship, and it should have just probably stayed at friendship. And there's no like specific incident that happened that makes me like think that. It's just overall, reading the book, I really enjoyed reading about their friendship more than I did once they started getting together. And like once the spice happened, I was like, oh, it's kind of weird because like you guys are best friends and you're like, I guess backshots never hurt a friendship, right? But do they? Because I didn't like these two together in a relationship. I just didn't. And I didn't really like the writing. I thought the writing was super simplistic, almost juvenile. I didn't like this book. 2 stars. 2 stars. And I feel like crap for saying that because I know a lot of people like this author and like this series, but I did not. So I read 3 and 4 in the Brutal Birthright series by Sophie Lark. I read Savage Lover and Stolen Heir. Let's talk about them. So Stolen Heir is about a ballerina and a guy in the mob, and they are sort of working together. The whole series is about these two rival mob families working together to conquer all of Chicago, essentially. That's what the entire 6-book series is about. But each book is a different sibling and their love interest, and it's the rival families getting together. So this is Nessa and Miko's story. They are my least favorite so far in the series. I did like the writing, obviously. I love Sophie Lark's writing. I did like the action in the story, the plot. It was all really well written. I just don't really care about the ballerina trope type of a thing. And I just realized I read Variation too, and they're both ballet themed, and I don't really care for that. And I don't know shit about ballet. And both of these books kind of heavily discuss that. So I was kind of just like, I don't know what that means, what any of that is. But aside from that, I thought this was well written and I liked it. The spice is always so good. Sophie Lark, she does spice. She does it well. So, like, for example, oh my God, I love it. I'm sorry if you're not 18 years old, then turn away. Okay, so that was Stolen Heir, and then I read Savage Lover. I loved Savage Lover. So, what did I rate Stolen Heir? Sorry. 3.75. This is the lowest rating I gave out of all of these books in this series. And then I read Savage Lover. This is Camille and Nero's story. So this one, again, mafia and mechanic romance. She's the mechanic, he's in the mafia. She sort of gets involved with being a rat for the cops because she's getting her brother out of some serious shit, and the cop basically blackmails her into working for him for a period of time. And then Nero kind of helps and gets her out of it. They are they're not enemies to lovers, but they did not like each other at the beginning of the book. They could not stand each other, but they weren't enemies. Like, they didn't want to kill each other. They just didn't want to be around each other. I thought that the angst that was built up was so good, because this was probably a little bit more of a slow burn for Sophie Lark's style. The spice didn't happen until like halfway-ish, and I was so excited for it. I couldn't wait for them to get together because I could feel it building up. You know, it was just like, it was so well written. I don't really love Camille. She's my least favorite female character out of all of them so far, but Nero, I think, might be my favorite male character out of all of the books. So I really, really like Nero. He sounds like my kind of guy. I had so much more fun reading this book than I did reading Stolen Heir. So this one got 4 stars. Stolen Heir got 3.75. So that's that. I'm almost done this series, which means I can move on to the next series, whatever it's called. The last book I read this last month, April, Forever Interrupted by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So this is a book about grief. This woman is married, and not even 2 weeks later, he is hit by a truck on his way home, and he dies. And it does say this on the back, so that's not a spoiler. This book shows our main character dealing with grief and getting through the death of a husband that she barely got to have, and sort of realizing she'll never have that life with him that she envisioned because it was cut short. It was taken. And she is really struggling with that, with basically the unknown. So she's dealing with this grief. She's not doing so well. She's going a little bit crazy. And at the same time, we're getting his mother, who is dealing with this grief. And on top of that, his mother had no idea that he was even married. So his mother and his wife are thrown into this situation, planning his funeral, dealing with all of that, and they don't even know who the other is. So it's really a lot. It's a lot to unpack, and it was heavy to read. But I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I did have to put it down a couple times and pick it back up because it was so heavily grief-ridden. but I did enjoy it, and I think Taylor Jenkins Reid has such a special ability to write books like this. It's unbelievable how well written all of her stories are. I've loved all of them. So this is a 4.25 star for me. So that's all the books I read in April, I think. If I'm missing any, then oh well. I read a lot, so sometimes it's hard to keep track of all of it, but I think that was everything. So thank you guys for watching. Please stay tuned for a reading vlog coming out with books that I've mostly been reading in May and at the very tail end of April. And if you enjoyed this video, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, stick around, and I will see you next time. Bye.